Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a question that, it's sparked millennia of debate. Is Buddha the ninth avatar of Lord Vishnu? When I first came across this, my first thought was, wait, which Buddha are we even talking about? Our sources show this is way more intricate, maybe even surprising than it looks. We've gathered some really insightful stuff to help navigate the different perspectives, the ancient texts, the philosophies you shared, so you can walk away informed, maybe with a few aha moments, too.
Yeah, what's fascinating here, and the sources really bring this out, is how intertwined these traditions are, and yet how distinct they can be at the same time. We're going to dig into scriptural takes, historical context, and the philosophical ideas shaping this whole relationship. It's less a simple yes or no, more a journey into identity, purpose, how spiritual thought evolves,
Perfect. Because my first aha moment, honestly, right at the start, was realizing the question itself might be tricky. When we say Buddha, the ninth avatar, we're talking about the historical guy, Siddhartha Gautama, founder of Buddhism. Seems like our sources say, hold on, there's a big distinction needed right there.
Indeed. And that's really the core insight to start with. Many Hindu scriptures do mention a Buddha as an avatar of Vishnu. That part's true. But there's a strong case made in our sources arguing there might actually be, well, 2 or 3 different Buddhas mentioned, appearing in different timelines, different purposes.
Whoa, hang on. 2 or 3, not just the Buddha we usually think of. So the avatar list might be referring to someone else entirely. That's kind of mind-bending. How do the sources help us tell them apart?
Exactly. Let's clarify that because it's crucial. So the historical Siddhartha Gautama, the one everyone knows, born in Lumbini, Nepal, mother Maya Devi, he was the prince who renounced everything, sought enlightenment, achieved nirvana, right? Founded Buddhism. That's him. But then you look at the Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Verse 4, specifically. It talks about a Sugata Buddha and describes this Buddha as Vishnu's avatar, son of Anjana, born in Kikata, which is basically modern Gaia.
Okay, different person, different place. What was his purpose then?
Well, the text says his mission was to appear in the beginning of Kali Yuga to delude those who are envious of the devoted theists.
Hold on, Kaluga and delude. Can you unpack those a bit? Delude sounds negative.
Good question. So Kali Yuga is the current age in Hindu cycles, seen as challenging, spiritually declining. And delude here, it's not malicious trickery. It's usually interpreted as a divine strategy, like presenting a certain philosophy to steer those who might misuse or attack Vedic principles away from the main devotional path. It's seen as protecting Dharma by diverting the envious or unrighteous, a kind of divine intervention.
Ah, okay. So a strategic delusion to protect the core teachings. That makes more sense.
Right. So this distinction between Siddhartha and the Sugata Buddha is really key when we talk Dashavatara. And, our sources also mention there's even debate within Hinduism. Is the ninth avatar Buddha? Or is it Balarama, Krishna's brother? It shows the list itself isn't entirely set in stone for everyone.
That distinction is huge. Okay, so if the avatar isn't necessarily Siddhartha, what else do scriptures say? Are there other stories about a Buddha-like Vishnu incarnation? What was his job beyond this delusion idea?
Yeah, other texts definitely weigh in, and they often give a specific divine role. A really interesting example is from the Rudra Yamala Tantra. It tells this story about Brahma Rishi Vashisht, a major sage. He spent thousands of years trying to please the goddess, intense spiritual practice. Some versions say near Kamakya Temple in Assam, others say near the ocean. But he wasn't succeeding.
Thousands of years, that's serious dedication. What went wrong, or what happened next?
He got frustrated, really frustrated, and ended up uttering a curse. The story goes, this curse caused the Kamakya Temple to become overgrown, hidden for ages.
Yeah.
Only after that, the goddess appeared. And she told him, basically, your method is wrong.
Ouch. After all that effort, so what was the right way?
She told him to go to the Mahajan area. And there he needed to learn the Vamarg method of worship. And who was he supposed to learn from? A Buddhaswara.
Buddhaswara, meaning?
It can mean Buddha himself or a representative, or in some tantras, specify this Vishnu in the form of Buddha. And the Vamarg method. That's significant too.
Right, that's the left-hand path in Tantra, often seen as unconventional.
Exactly. Esoteric practices, sometimes challenging norms, focusing on direct experience. So Vasishta goes, learns this method from the Buddha figure, and then he finally succeeds. So this story directly connects Vishnu to a Buddha form, acting as a guide for a specific, powerful spiritual path. Gives the avatar a very tangible role as a teacher.
Wow, okay. That's a very different picture than just deluding the envious. It's about initiation, specific teachings.
Right. And while Rudra Yamal has this dramatic story, other Puranas like Agni and Garuda also list Buddha as an avatar, often with a similar theme, maybe less dramatic, but about guiding or restoring Dharma through specific means.
That story really grounds it. Makes me think, though, zooming out again, what about the bigger picture? This idea some scholars have about the Dashavatara showing evolution, like a blueprint for humanity. How does that view change where Buddha fits in? Our sources mention this evolutionary take from the Vishnu Puran. What does that all mean?
Yeah, that's a fascinating way to look at it,
Yeah.
finding modern meaning in these old narratives. Many scholars do read the Vishnu Puran like that, not just religion, but commentary on evolution. From simple life to complex societies, kind of mirroring biological and social development. It's an intriguing lens.
So the avatars aren't random, they follow a pattern, like
Yeah.
stages.
Exactly. Look at the path. First avatar, Matsya, the fish, aquatic life. Second, Kurma, the tortoise, amphibian, water to land. Third, Varaha, the boar, early land animal, stronger. Then Narasimha, half man, half lion, a transition, right? Instinct and intelligence merging.
Okay, I see the progression.
Then Vamana, the dwarf or pygmy, early human form. Parashurama, the warrior with the axe. Early tools, maybe tribal society, still a bit wild. Then comes Rama, ideal king, simple civilized society. Dharma, belief in God. After him, Krishna, king in a much more complex, sometimes corrupt society, internal family feuds, tricky ethics.
Right, increasingly complex human societies and dilemmas.
So from that evolutionary perspective, what's the next step for humankind? It's not just better societies or tech, it's a leap in consciousness. The enlightened man Buddha, representing that higher spiritual state, mastery of the mind. In this view, he's the culmination, the peak of human potential shown through the avatars. It's a powerful way to frame it.
Okay, let's unpack this angle. We've got Sugata Buddha, the tantric teacher, the evolutionary pinnacle. Lots of possibilities. But what about the actual philosophies, Buddhism and Hinduism? Are they fundamentally opposed, or are there surprising connections? Because you hear about historical friction, but maybe there's more to it.
Well, yes, historically there were frictions.
Hmm.
Different schools of thought, sometimes, fighting for supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
But our sources really push towards finding the common ground.
Mm-hmm.
We can see key differences in approach, sure, but also these fascinating overlaps in core wisdom. It's often complementary.
Not necessarily verses, then. More like different ways of saying similar things.
Could be. Take asceticism, renunciation. That's one difference in emphasis. In Buddhism, and Jainism too, asceticism is often a primary virtue. The goal is often to leave the world, become a hermit right away. Enlightenment can involve that sudden movement, like Buddha leaving his palace. A clean break.
Okay, immediate renunciation as a high ideal.
Hinduism, though, often presents a more integrated life path. You've got the four goals: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, duty, wealth, pleasure, liberation. And it often suggests a gradual progression towards asceticism. That's the ashram dharma.
Ah, the 4 stages of life.
Exactly. Brahmacharya student, learning, celibate. Then grihastha, the householder. You marry, work, raise kids, engage with the world. Then vanaprastha, gradually detaching, more spiritual focus, but still connected. And then finally, maybe sannyasa, full ascetic renunciation.
So it builds it into the life cycle, rather than demanding everyone renounce immediately.
Right. And this gradual approach, you could argue, helps society function. You need people being householders, earning, protecting. It creates this kind of symbiotic relationship. Householders support the renunciates, the sannyasas. Everyone follows their dharma, contributes in their stage. Society continues, while spiritual goals are also pursued. It's a different model for balancing worldly life and liberation.
Makes sense from a practical view, but philosophically, despite different life paths, are there shared core ideas?
Oh, absolutely. And they're profound. Think about the middle path. Buddha's famous teaching, right? Avoid extremes. Don't indulge too much. Don't deny too much. It came from his own experience. He tried extreme asceticism, became totally emaciated, realized it didn't work. You need a functional body and mind.
Right, find the balance.
Well, interestingly, Krishna also talks about a middle path in the Bhagavad Gita. Balance in action, food, sleep, recreation. Avoiding extremes. So that core principle of balance, it's there in both traditions, articulated perhaps differently, but present.
That's a huge point of connection. What about controlling the mind? That feels central to both.
Definitely. Buddhism places a very strong, explicit emphasis on it. It's often the absolute core of the practice. You know that famous Buddha quote, "A man who learns how to control his mind is greater than one who can win 1,000 battles." It highlights that internal victory.
Powerful. And Hinduism.
Mind control is fundamental in Hinduism too, of course. Think yoga, meditation, teachings about conquering the senses, Shiva as the ultimate ascetic master of mind. But Buddhism often foregrounds it, makes it maybe more accessible, provides very focused techniques. Our sources suggest it offers supplemental value, especially relevant today with anxiety, overthinking. That laser focus on mental discipline is very clear.
And maybe one reason we see these as so different or focus on conflict is simply access to the texts.
That's a really important practical point our sources raise. A lot of ancient Hindu texts just haven't been widely translated from Sanskrit, not enough converted into English or other languages. So a huge amount of nuance, context, philosophy, it's just not easily available to a global audience.
Yeah.
Which naturally leads to maybe a simplified or incomplete understanding of the connections and the depths within Hinduism itself.
So where does that leave us? What does this all mean? If it's not necessarily a Buddhism versus Hinduism battle, despite differences, what's the takeaway?
Exactly. It seems less like a battle and more like maybe different commentaries on the quest for knowledge, for liberation. Both traditions ultimately talk about salvation, understanding reality, ending suffering, even if the definitions and paths diverge. It's more about appreciating the different ways humans have sought answers to life's biggest questions.
And how did these traditions interact globally? Did Buddhism just stay the same everywhere?
No, not at all. That's another key point. Buddhism showed incredible adaptability. As it spread to China, Tibet, Japan, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, it mixed with local cultures, philosophies, beliefs. That's why you get such different schools. Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana. They look quite distinct because they adapted. That flexibility was crucial for its spread.
And Hinduism's inclusion of Buddha as an avatar, is that a similar kind of adaptation?
You could see it that way. It speaks to Hinduism's historically inclusive approach. The idea isn't necessarily that Hindus created Buddha, but that his teachings became so influential, resonated so deeply, perhaps aligned with existing Vedic ideas about compassion, nonviolence, mind control, that he was adopted or enculturated into the Dashavatara list. It suggests a way of bringing influential figures whose wisdom was recognized into the fold, rather than just rejecting them as other. It's about finding wisdom wherever it appears and incorporating it, enriching the tradition.
What an incredible deep dive. Seriously. From questioning which Buddha to tantric teachings, evolutionary paths, philosophical overlaps. It really shows how complex and interwoven these narratives are. Much more than just a simple yes-no about an avatar list. It challenges easy categories, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what does it all suggest?
Ellen.
It really encourages us, I think, to look past the surface differences between spiritual paths, to find that underlying wisdom, the shared human quest for meaning that often unites them. Think about how both these traditions tried to answer fundamental questions: suffering, purpose, harmony, liberation. So maybe the real takeaway from this deep dive isn't just about Buddha and Vishnu. Perhaps it's about how we approach difference itself. How does exploring this history of inclusion, philosophical evolution, and careful definition inform how we might understand different beliefs today? In a world that often focuses on division, what can we learn from these traditions about finding common ground, about recognizing shared wisdom even in unexpected places? That's something to really mull over.